right, how's everyone doing tonight? We are the Tripwire Podcast coming to you for the last time for the 2021 fantasy football season. We are part of the Triple Play Fantasy family, which is now part of the Fantasy Points Media Group. And we are excited. Hopefully you guys won some championships. It's okay if you didn't. Just a reminder, best way to support us is to subscribe to the Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel. Just hit that subscribe button, follow us, follow everyone on the show, and like our video. It goes a long way. So, Toby, Alex, how y'all doing tonight?
Can't complain. Bringing in the new year.
Birds clinch that playoff spot with that Packers win. Jalen Hurts survived the catastrophe known as FedEx Field. So, as an Eagles fan, surprisingly not awful.
There you go. And are both of you champions or no luck this year?
I'm a champion in a couple or three leagues.
Went 0-5 in the championship.
Ooh, hey, at least you got the 5. That's awesome.
Yeah, with 3 more third place finishes.
There you go. Yeah, I pulled out one, which is great. I completely blew another one. It was an 8-man league, which you would think sounds really easy.
It's not.
But my team was so stacked, which was great. I was the top team until I had to make lineup decisions, and I made all of the wrong decisions.
It's always how it goes.
It was bad, but hey, at least it was just for fun, and we can move on until next year. So
my biggest home league one was I was the 8 seed. I had to win to get in. So it's a 12-team league, Superflex, 8 seed. I played the 1 seed who went 12-2, beat him. Play the 5 seed, beat him by like 100, and then I'm gonna put up like 210 in the championship to win.
Damn.
Rashad Penny and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
There we go. And I think that might be it in this episode. So with that, this is a wrap-up episode. We just want to get together all one last time because honestly, I don't think all 3 of us have been together for a show in a few weeks.
No, it's been a few weeks.
With the holidays going on and everything going on. So we wanted to get one more show together. Honestly, none of us play Week 18. If you do play Week 18, that's fine. Whatever works for you. It's just not our preference. So we're not really going to go through any waiver wire pickups for Week 18. Basically, if they did well this week and they're available, go pick them up. It's really what it comes down to. We don't know who's playing yet. We know some playoff scenarios, but we just don't know who's going to rest their guys, who's not going to rest their guys. So just follow some information out there, but best of luck to you.
If you do play Week 18, value should probably even open up after waivers run even because a lot of these teams decide late whether they sit there what we call studs, but they're starters. So just monitor the news if you have one of these guys that have already clinched and stuff like that, and they sit.
Cool.
Yeah, so McCarthy came out and said Dallas is playing their starters against the Eagles this week. So that's one you don't need to worry about too much. Then the Eagles, on the other hand, had 12 guys test positive for COVID today.
They're just trying to get ready for the playoffs.
Getting ready. Getting it out of the way now.
Exactly. All right. Well, we're going to start with the positives because it's our show and why not? So we're going to start with the waiver wire hits. So I tried to capture as much as I could going through all of our old shows. Sorry, I don't have the time to splice together all of those highlights and actually put them on video. So we're just going to talk them. But the first few ones started in the preseason. If you guys were with us way back when, we were talking sleepers by position. This was in August. Just to kind of, 1, get ourselves warmed up and get ready for the season, and 2, just get some content out there before we got the waiver wires going. So, Toby, in episode 3, we were talking about wide receiver sleepers. Do you remember who you recommended that was preseason wide receiver 48?
It was Mike Williams of the Los Angeles Chargers. And I was actually in Florida for this show. I do remember that because I was almost late. You remember that, Zach?
I do.
Yeah.
That was right before I joined.
Yes. Yep. And, just coming into the season, Mike Williams was a top 10 pick, and I felt like it was finally his time. Herbert in that offense was coming off a great rookie year from Herbert. So, he's going to feed somebody other than Keenan Allen. They lost Hunter Henry, so even more targets opened up. And, at wide receiver 48 coming in to the season, his draft price was just too good to pass up.
Yep. And so he's right now wide receiver 19 at 14.6 points per game, which is wide receiver 22. So he's had crazy up and downs, but he was so hot in the beginning. And I mean, at that draft price where you got him, it didn't matter. He was doing well for you, even if you had to bail towards the end of the year.
He helped you win early on, really early on.
Exactly. So the next one's a wide receiver too. So I talked about him in that same episode for wide receiver sleepers is Darnell Mooney. So he was preseason wide receiver 56. So everyone was hyping up Allen Robinson. I mean, we were all happy about Allen Robinson too. But Darnell Mooney finished the season pretty well at the end of last year. If those remembered, where he just kept getting those deep shots were missing from Trubisky. But he was getting a ton of targets, ton of air yards. So the peripherals were there. And he hasn't been amazing. He's wide receiver 27, so he's not blowing it away. But it's a huge cry from where he was preseason. And that offense has looked up and down all year and honestly pretty terrible. So the fact that he's been holding it together and averaging over 12 points a game, he was definitely a hit if you picked him up that late and you were able to throw him in your flex probably most weeks and do pretty well for you. And then these are probably my two favorite sleeper picks. These are both from Alex from the tight end sleeper episode 4. Can you go with the first one we have is for my team, the Cowboys. Who did you call in the preseason?
I was team Dalton Schultz. It just made too much sense. Jarwin coming off the injury, the body of work that Schultz had last year. Schultz already exceeded that this year. He has 75 grabs, almost 800 yards, 6 touchdowns. He has the same amount of catches as CeeDee Lamb thus far through the year.
He's the tight end 4.
Yeah, he's been on
the tight end 4.
Didn't even have an ADP.
Correct. Yeah, he wasn't getting drafted.
I remember I said that, you guys. You only knew because you're a Cowboys fan, but it felt like who? Like a bunch of owls in the group chat.
And then who was your second huge hit for the tight end sleepers?
So this one I have to put a little disclaimer. This was before the Irv Smith injury. I was high on Tyler Conklin just because of his body of work the last 4 games last year. He was snapping Irv Smith pretty evenly, seeing the same amount of volume and everything. So it made sense for him to be viable this year, especially after all offseason Mike Zimmer. Whenever I was asked about Irv Smith, he said, "Oh, but Tyler Conklin. Oh, but Tyler Conklin." And this year, even though he's the tight end 14, Conklin has seen 83 targets, which is what you want. You want tight ends to not put up zeros. And he has 59 grabs for 687 yards and only found the end zone 3 times. But still, he's putting up close to 10 points a game from the tight end position, which is what you desperately need.
He wasn't going to draft either. He was behind Schultz. So definitely two great suggestions as our sleepers. So we'll remember that.
In the rough.
Yeah, next summer for our sleepers. So I'm just going to kind of highlight some of these players. So I just kind of pulled guys that we mentioned from week to week, and I try to mention guys that we like recommended pretty highly, and not just like let's just throw him on the list and look, he hit, we got lucky. Like that's not helping anybody. I want to talk about the process. So Elijah Mitchell was one of our week 2 waivers. That was episode 7. We recommended him as our number 1 pickup that week. I mean, I had no idea he would do as well as he did. He's the RB13 on the season, in points per game. He only played 10 games because of injury. But if you held on to him and you made the finals, I mean, he might have helped you in a championship yesterday. And he was averaging 15.6 points per game. So if you got him early on, that's what we talked about a couple episodes ago about strategy. Spend your fab early. If you had a good feeling about him because of his peripherals and his usage because that was week 2. So this was after just watching him one game and seeing how that looked. If you felt good about him, that's when you want to spend that money. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Elijah Mitchell. He just happened to be the player this season. But when you go into next year, think about that and take that risk because that would have paid off for you at whatever price you paid for Elijah Mitchell. The next one was another running back / wide receiver, Cordero Patterson in week 3. So he came off 2 solid weeks, the first 2 weeks, and we recommended him as like, hey, like that was when he was like getting these random touchdowns. None of us believed that he would be able to sustain that. But he did, but we said take the risk. And so he's been the running back 7 and the wide receiver 14, depending on how you want to categorize them in your league. And he's averaging 15.5 points per game. So that's insane for Cordell Patterson. Now he has slowed down a lot.
Was he the James Robinson deal this year? Realistically,
I think so.
I mean, it's not the same scenario. We knew Robinson before like right before the season. But I mean, it looks to me being a top 10 running back from Patterson, no one expected it. No one expected Robinson. He's been this journeyman kind of guy. It looks like the same story to me.
Yeah, I feel like we got
Mike Davis
two
is
of
still
those this year because we had same thing with Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah.
He was the second running back selected that year. Almost felt more like of a Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams type situation. Jones was drafted later and then was just like, hey, this guy's just a better football player. Why is he not on the field 24/7?
Yep. So this next guy is a one-hit wonder, but hey, that's what you need when you get into these bye weeks and you need to just pick a guy to help you win a game. That's when you need to pay attention to the waiver wire and make those selections and be smart with your money. So Deandra Johnson, week 7 waivers, episode 12, we recommend as a top pickup that week. He was the RB4 with 24.8 points. So if you were able to get him and play him that week, and I think it was a Thursday night game too. So you're probably feeling great going into your Sunday matchups, and you had a good chance of winning that week because that was a pretty big bye week, like one of the bipocalypse weeks. And then you just got almost 25 points from a waiver wire pickup. So that's where you want to really kind of look at those predictions. That all came because of injury, is where that came from. So you got to pay attention. You can't just draft your team in August or beginning of September and then just let them go. You have to constantly be paying attention to the waiver wire.
I think Johnson was also effective recency bias. People had a bad taste in their mouth.
Yep.
Didn't want to pick him up, but it's opportunity. You saw Hunt and Chubb not playing. He's going to get the opportunity, so it's worth every bit of it, even if it's just a rental.
Mm-hmm. All right, our next guy, got to give a shout out to one of our guests from that week was Nick, P2W Fantasy. Elijah Moore is one of his favorite rookies going into the season. He was struggling the first half of the year, and then this was the week 10 waiver, so we had a pretty good game week 9, and then so we recommended as he being one of the top wide receiver pickups. We liked his schedule. We liked his targets. He was a wide receiver 6 from week 10 to week 13 at 18.2 points per game, and then he was injured. So he got you 4 solid weeks. I think maybe 1 week was a little down. We didn't score a touchdown, but the other 3 weeks, I think he scored a touchdown on all of them and averaged 18 points for you. Again, a waiver wire pickup in week 10. Those are crucial weeks to get you ready for the playoffs and hopefully get you in. So shout out to Nick there. I know it was one of his guys, and I know he was on our one of our graphics that Toby made as well that week. And then the next guy, Sony Michel, we were talking about him for the week 14 waivers, which feels so long ago. He's been the RB14 from week 14 to 16. And then that was at 14 points per game. And then in championship week for you, if you played him again, 18.9. So now that came along because Darrell Henderson got hurt. And so Sony Michel stepped up. But we talked about that with Deandra Johnson. Like that's where you have to pay attention to the waiver wire and injuries and see, do you think a guy's going to get a majority of the workload? Because not every running back does. I mean, we saw that with Tennessee. Foreman's flashed a little bit. Hilliard's flashed a little bit. It's gone back and forth, but Michel got all the work.
I think if you look at it with guys like Michel and Johnson, we've seen because people tend to think they're not going to get a full workload. They're going to split a lot, but you can tell pretty easily, even with recency bias too with Johnson. I mean, no one knew who Johnson was last year, and yeah, he didn't play particularly well last year when it was his time to be picked up or a top waiver priority, but he still got the touches. Like you can determine in most offenses. And Michel's been a starting running back before, so you had to just, if I can find the word, impose that he was going to get the full workload without Henderson there. But the real tricky thing with Michel is that some people might have let him go once they saw Henderson was active, and it was a mistake. Because I knew I thought about it when Henderson was active. I was like, okay, his time is done. It's back to the Henderson thing, and Michel just kept going.
Yep, that's where you got to play your bench too and see, can you hold on to a guy? Do you need to get rid of him? And sometimes we make good calls, we make bad calls, and that worked out for you, but you almost made a bad call, and we've made plenty of them. So that's part of fantasy. And then we got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has been the new hotness lately. So we recommended him back in week 14. So from week 14 to 16, So that was the last week of the regular season and then through the first 2 weeks of the playoffs. He was the wide receiver 3, 21.6 points per game. And then this championship week, he was, as everyone likes to call everybody now, a league winner at 35.4 points in week 17. And that was with a bunch of different quarterbacks, and they're all terrible quarterbacks, and he made it work. Now, the caveat is Swift has been out, Hawkinson's been out, but that's part of paying attention to what's going on and seeing that, hey, there's a lot of targets up for grabs. There's a void in the offense. So you take that risk. And it paid off for everyone who got Amon-Ra St. Brown, and hopefully it's also a lesson to those that didn't want to believe in the Lions offense. And I don't want to believe in the Lions offense, but you can still believe in a player if you think that he's going to get that much work.
Especially this late in the season, it's one of those you almost have to prioritize situation over anything else when it comes to waivers. Because you could have been like, oh, let me grab a guy like Josh Palmer. He got drafted earlier. I think he's better. But he's buried in that depth chart behind Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. In terms of priority as a pass catcher, that is. Yep. Meanwhile, you go to St. Brown, it's like, who else is going to be catching the ball with Hawkins, Swift out? The three of us? There's no competition for him.
Correct. And then we go into the playoff schedule now, and we recommended Rashad Penny, who was coming off an injury, honestly. So that's why he was available on waivers again, because he kept getting banged up. But at this point, he was the lead back because everyone else in front of him was out. So we recommended in week 15 and again in week 17. He scored 19.5 in week 16 for your semifinals, and then he just put up 32.5 in your championship. So if you picked him up in week 15, he might have hurt you in week 15, like everyone hurt everybody in week 15. But if you were able to sustain that or had a bye week in week 15 and you picked him up, he carried you to a championship in week 16 and 17.
The last three guys we just talked about were all started on my championship roster that I was telling y'all pre-show.
Yeah, there you go. So that's what we're talking about, where you just have to pick. I mean, even if the names sound disgusting, and this next name, you're not going to believe that we ever recommended him, but we did, is Braxton Barrios. Just for week 17, we recommended him last week. He was one of those deeper league ones where, like, hey, he's available everywhere. All of the wide receivers in front of him are hurt. Pick him up. Elijah Moore might not be back. Then we found out Elijah Moore isn't coming back. Jamison Crowder wasn't there. So where are the targets going? And we talked about how the Bucs defense kind of funnels to the slot wide receiver. He put up 24.7 points in your championship week if you had the fortitude to put him in your starting lineup, or maybe you're forced to. But he might have won you your championship as well.
I think Barrios was also, yes, opportunity, but I mean, the target share was there the previous week. We saw kind of writing on the wall once Moore got put on the IR, then COVID list. And we thought, and I imagine both of y'all also thought the game script was going to be a little bit different for the Jets. But, I mean, it still turned out great because they still had to put up points to even get close. I mean, they still lost, but it was a lot closer than any of us expected. But we thought they were going to be a negative game script to give Barrios these targets and opportunities. So it worked out either way. But, I mean, it's also looking at game script for some of these wide receivers that you don't think is going to do anything. But if they're trailing and he's getting a good target share, those catches are going to come. Yep,
exactly. And then our last one, we recommended defense just to help you out in the championship week. I believe when we recommended them, they were like 12% roster or so. It's the Chicago Bears. So again, it depends on how your league scoring does defenses because every league is different. But it seems like the standard scoring was 25 points in week 17, which again, if you're playing with defenses, probably helped you win a championship. I know in one of my leagues, I had the Chicago Bears defense and Tucker because we had kickers as well. So I think between the two of them, I put up 40 points right there. So
that'll steal it for you.
Yep. So it doesn't always feel great when that's how you win, but hey, a win's a win and we'll take it. But that's a lot of positives. Trust me, we had a ton of misses. I could not capture all of the misses. It's just not possible. But that's part of playing the waiver wire. You're going to have a lot of misses. You got to keep swinging. You got to keep playing. I mean, I don't think there was a week. Correct me if you guys are wrong, but I don't think there was a week where I did not pick up at least one person off the waiver wire.
Yeah.
Like you always got a roster. There's always somebody on your roster.
Yeah.
Just take a chance. You don't know what's going to happen. Or even on Sunday morning, I put those tweets out towards the end of the season of just guys to beat the waiver wire. Pick somebody up. Just you never know if there's going to be an injury or someone's situation is going to change. And these guys could end up being league winners. We talked about a bunch of them.
I do it a lot on your Sunday and Monday nights because those teams are still available to pick up, and most formats let you drop a person that you didn't start that was on your bench. So you never know if that guy isn't doing much. He's just taking a spot. Pick up somebody that you could see some ample opportunity for in that offense and these Sunday or Monday night games before waivers even come around.
Yep. So I'm going to get into our misses because trust me, we had plenty of them.
I do want to hit one that was in the preseason that's not on this list.
Go for it.
And it was in the tight end sleeper show. I'm not as good as Alex, guys. But Jonnu Smith was one of my sleepers, and that was a big swing and a miss. I thought the opportunity was going to be there. I thought he'd run the same routes as Hunter Henry, but I thought he was a bigger red zone threat. And just didn't pan out. Injuries and stuff like that happened, and Hunter Henry was the guy, not Jonnu Smith.
I like Johnny too, so
yeah,
I think a lot of
we all got burned.
Yeah, I think most of the industry got burned on that one.
So this one is one of mine who hurt me in my own home league, as my home league will tell me. Rondell Moore, we recommended him week 3. He was coming up, started hot to start the season. We recommended spending about 20% of your fab on him. Since week 3, he's been the wide receiver 75 and has not helped you really at all. I held onto him for so long because I spent so much fab on him. Never really used him, and then finally had to let him go probably about a month ago as things were getting tight on my roster with so many injuries. But yeah, so that one stung for me personally. I was very excited about him, and it just didn't work out. So I spent a lot of fab on him. It didn't pay off, and that happens sometimes, but it was definitely a miss. And then I wanted you to talk about this one, Alex, just because it's your team. But
I think this is the biggest miss of our season because we talked about him so much.
Yeah, so I literally put it in our show notes. Kenneth Gainwell, we recommended multiple weeks. He might have been our most recommended player by total number of weeks. Now, we didn't recommend him as highly every week, but we definitely put him on our list almost every week. But yeah. How do you feel as an Eagles fan about Kenneth Gainwell?
I'm indifferent still. He's really good on special teams. So he's still like a productive actual player. But for whatever reason, they don't use Boston Scott the first 9 weeks. And they're like, oh, let's just play him over Gainwell now that Sanders is hurt. Oh, let's bring up 2016 Jordan Howard. He's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher. Not actually, but he's playing at that very high level. Sanders comes back and Gainwell gets absolutely obliterated in that depth chart. Did think you were going to mention Quez Watkins miss first before Gainwell.
Oh, no, because that was more
that was an irrelevant miss.
And fun. I mean, I don't think anybody took your recommendation on picking up Quez Watkins. So he can be your personal miss, but I didn't think
that's my biggest miss because I had to wear something Cowboys on the show, which was my biggest miss.
That's fair. The next one we had was running back Damien Williams. We recommended in the week 5 waiver show, episode 10. So he did score 14.4 in week 5, which wasn't terrible. But then he was terrible and then was injured and never helped you again. So we thought he would take over the lead back for Chicago when Montgomery was down for what we thought would be at least a month, which it was about. Unfortunately, Williams was pretty bad. He got hurt, and then Khalil Herbert took over until Montgomery came back. And then Montgomery obliterated that depth chart and just stole the show the rest of the season. Cam Newton, week 12 waivers, episode 17. We recommended him as a top QB pickup, and he sucked week 12. Now, we did warn everyone that he had a bad schedule after his week 13 bye, so it was potentially just a 1-week rental for you in week 12. But let me remind you of his week 12. So he was a QB 31, which is already bad. It was 6.18 points. That was when he went 5 for 21, which if you do the math, that's 23.8% completion percentage for 92 yards. He had 2 interceptions. The only reason why he even had 6 points was because he had 3 rushes for 5 yards and one of them was a touchdown. We could not have missed any harder on a QB pickup to help you that week. So we apologize for that one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
that
said
was
he'd
rough.
be a QB1, and I was way off.
Don't worry. Not only do I do this show, but I have my QB tight end streamers for Fantasy and Frames, and I recommended him in that one as well. I nailed it.
Worked out.
Yeah. so we missed it. And then our last miss that I wanted to highlight, just because we really talked him up to stream him for the playoffs, and that's when he hurt you the most, was Ricky Seals Jones. So we talked him up as a playoff streamer because he had a great matchup for all 3 weeks, because I think he had the Eagles twice and the Cowboys once. Well, week 15 he put up 6.9 points. Okay, well, that's not terrible. Week 16, 0.6 points.
We saw that Cowboys game though. So.
Yeah.
Correct. And then week 17, 1.8 points. Now he did go out hurt. I understand that, but still, if you played him, he still did not help you.
It bites, yeah.
That reporter missed him up, man.
Yeah, and hopefully he's okay.
Yeah.
Because it looked bad, but he was actually really solid early in the season when he was getting like 99% snap share. We talked about him earlier in the season. He was fine, but then he came back from that injury. He clearly just wasn't the same, and that's where we talked about situation and schedule, and it did not pan out. So they're not all hits when you talk about situation and schedule.
We do have one defensive miss that's not on this list.
Go for it.
And it was just last week. And I don't know who picked them. It might have Zach, you might have picked them when we were talking about it. I don't know. The Chargers defense facing Houston. Was that last week or the week before?
That was 2 weeks ago. And yeah, I did recommend them. Yeah,
yes.
That did not work out.
No one saw Houston putting up 40 on that Chargers.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, no, because I talked about the Chargers up a couple weeks of like, hey, they have some good matchups coming up. Stash them now. And that was one of the matchups I was excited for, and that was a mistake.
It was a big thing that Bosa and Derwin James were both out for that Texans game, but I mean, still.
Yeah, I think they had like 24 maybe COVID guys out on COVID or injured.
Damn.
But yeah, still. So I mean, you might have pivoted in time when you saw all that going on, but yeah, it was not a hit for sure. All right, so that's all of our hits and misses we want to cover. We had a lot of fun this season, so we wanted to kind of give some thank yous out there because we had a lot of people on the show. So first, we wanted to thank David Mendelson. So we'll call him our boss, and the rest of the Triple Play Fantasy team for giving us this platform to talk about the waiver wire all season. David came to us to ask us to come together and put this together. So we appreciate him giving us that opportunity. I've had a lot of fun. I think you guys have enjoyed this as well. So I wanted to shout out David and the team. Also want to shout out the Fantasy Points Media Group for bringing Triple Play Fantasy on as an affiliate during the season. That's a big deal for us. Really exciting for the team as a whole. So we appreciate them. Our buddy Joe, he was part of our crew in the off season, and then unfortunately his work schedule changed, and we have to do the show Monday nights because of the content we're talking about. So we're hoping to bring him back on next season as well. But we appreciate Joe for everything he did for us at the beginning of the season, the preseason, and then he's been in our group chat all season. So we've had still a lot of laughs with him. So if he's watching this, we want to shout him out as well. And then we had a lot of awesome guests, and we really appreciate all of them coming on, taking the time. They all did their research ahead of time to be ready to talk waivers, to give you guys the best advice possible. It was a lot of fun for us to work with all these people. So we have Alexa at Alexa Trade Talk. We have Derek at Fantasy Derek, Nick at P2W Fantasy, Jamie at Jack 3600, Drake at Jake Trowbridge, Troy at T King Mode, Alex at Alex Caruso, Jay at G-Man J, Ryan at the Fantasy 5, and John at the Bauer Club. So I got all of their handles streaming across the bottom there. So if you don't already follow any of them, make sure you do. They're all fantastic content creators. We had a lot of fun working with them, even if it only was for 30 minutes for one night of the week of the season. But it was a blast, and they were great. So we really appreciate them taking the time to join our show. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was awesome having such a great group of guests for the tail end of our first season together. Going to be interesting to see what we put together next year for it.
Yeah, we're going to see what we can pull off for next year with guests, or maybe we'll just bring them all back again. We'll do round 2. And then we also want to thank all of our viewers and supporters throughout the season. We do this show for you guys every week. We have a lot of fun. I know waiver wires can be tricky during different parts of the year, and Sometimes you might need us, sometimes you don't need us, but we wanted to always be here for you every week, no matter what. Even if one of us was missing, we made sure we still had a show. So we appreciate everyone that watched us, tuned in, followed us on Twitter. It's been a lot of fun this season. And then we can't close it out without talking Monkey Knife Fight real quick. So hopefully your season's done. I mean, again, if you're playing week 18, that's okay. But hopefully you're done. You won a championship, and now you still want to do some more fantasy. Well, try out Monkey Knife Fight. If you're a first-time user, use code TRIPLEPLAY, and Monkey Knife Fight will match up to $100 of your first deposit, minimum deposit of $10. So it's basically like props betting, not just for football, all the different sports. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of sports going on right now, whether you want to believe that or not. So it's been a blast. It's pretty easy. You don't have to spend a lot of money if you don't want to, or you can go crazy. Whatever you want to do. I think we've all been playing it for most of the season. I'm definitely going to start playing it more again as we get into the playoffs now that I can just kind of focus on that and not fantasy. But give it a try if you've never played before. Again, use code TRIPLEPLAY. You get some free money. Why not have some fun with it? Give it a try. And guys, Alex, do you have any last words you want to close the season with as we wrap it up?
The slogan for the show: you don't win your league in the draft, you win in the waiver wire.
100%. And Toby, any last thoughts for you for the close of the season?
Just thankful for Triple Play that we got to do this all season. Thankful getting to meet and grow with you guys too. I mean, we were rookies coming into this, and now we have some great on-show chemistry, everything. Feel like I can talk to y'all about anything too. So it's just a great season, especially me being a rookie for this whole fantasy space this season. So ready for next football season and the playoffs and the Super Bowl. You'll see us this off season too. So have fun with you guys. It ain't over.
It's been a lot of fun this season.
I appreciate it. I think we were all rookies, honestly.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it was all of our first season starting content.
First season behind camera.
Yep. So it's been a lot of fun. I've had a blast with you guys. It's definitely been interesting going from writing a bunch of articles to now, like you said, getting on camera and talking about it. Definitely different, a lot of fun. It was great trying to get guests on the show and reach out to a lot of people and make some great relationships. It's been great working with you all. Like you said, Alex, you don't win your championship at the draft. I mean, I think this year proved it, especially in the playoffs. If you weren't playing the waiver wire, you probably didn't win. So we hope you guys tune into us next season. We'll be back again. You'll see us in the off season. We'll pop in and out, maybe do some tripwire shows. Then all of us have a bunch of projects going on for this off season as well that we're all really excited about. So follow us on Twitter. All of our handles are on screen. So I'm at FF Chalupa Batman. Toby's at Z2 Fantasy, and Alex is at Alex Mateo 94. So follow all of us so you don't miss any of the content. Like I said, the best way to support not just this show, but Triple Play Fantasy in general is to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have so much going on there. We have a lot of content coming out soon. Even though we're going in the off season for football, we'll be churning out content for that. Basketball is in the middle of the season right now, so we got lots of content for that. And then baseball is already gearing up as we get ready for hopefully the start of the season if there's not a lockout. But to get you guys ready, there's going to be a lot of baseball talk. So please subscribe so you don't miss any of that amazing content coming from the team. And with that, I guess the best thing to say is, hey, hope you guys won your championships. Enjoy Monday Night Football now if you're still watching, and just enjoy some playoff football and come back next year.
Go Browns.
Go Birds.
Go Cowboys.
Ooh.
Have a good night, guys.